Hi and welcome to that episode of PDA Dad UK. In this episode, I'm going to be looking at meltdowns and my life hacks for getting through them, helping support our kids and managing meltdowns in both private and public situations. So as I say, welcome back to PDA Dad UK. Before I go on any further, please do hit like, hit subscribe and ring the bell so that you know when new content's coming up. As I say, I want to look in this episode at life hacks for supporting our kids through meltdowns and how to deal with them in both public and private situations. Meltdowns, for anybody who's a carer or a parent or an autistic child, meltdowns are a fact of life. They are going to happen. Now, very early on in this, my first episode I ever did on this, we talked about the intrinsic link between anxiety and autism. And it's so key to understand that. And a meltdown is an expression of anxiety. You recall I spoke to Marie Gentles from the show Don't Exclude Me. And something that she identified that I actually did relate to very closely was the fact that a meltdown or a challenging behavior of any description is actually an expression of an unmet need. And that's really important to keep in mind. So a meltdown is an expression of something that's going on internally, an anxiety and a stress that's just reached the point where a person cannot cope physically anymore, and it leads to the challenging behaviours that result in meltdowns. We experience meltdowns on a regular basis with my daughter, and they are a part of life, and we've had to learn to live with them. And I've had to learn to adapt quickly and also to understand what's going on and how I can best support my daughter in those situations. So these are the sort of tips and tricks that I've learned through my years of being a parent to an autistic child, which helped me to support her. And I think that's the key. And the first thing I really want to say is this is about supporting the autistic person in question. This isn't about making my life easier. This isn't about avoiding situations that are going to make me embarrassed in public or anything like that. This is about supporting my daughter and her needs at where she's at. And I think if you're going to understand and work with meltdowns and work through them, that's the first and most important thing that I can possibly say. It is for their benefit, not ours. Benefits to us as parents, carers, and people working with autistic people or neurodivergent people is that, hopefully we can help manage these behaviors, and so we, by meeting our kids, our supported ones where they're at, we're helping to minimize the need to go into meltdown, and it can make a huge difference, and it supports their well-being and supports their comfort and happiness in their place in life. So number one is identifying triggers, looking for warning signs, if you like, is probably a better way to put it, of where my daughter may be heading into a stage where she could hit meltdown. Looking for things that are just the indicators to me that she's elevated in her anxiety and then she's trying to cope. Number one thing for me was stimming. With my daughter, when you can see it immediately. If she's really stressed, she starts playing with her hair, curling her hair. We talked about this. She shaved her head recently. She can't do that at the moment. But she'll play with, anything that's on her clothes, belts or little tie things. She starts fiddling with bits and pieces. You can see the agitation. So seeing those warning signs is so important. Looking for those triggers, looking for things that she's showing that she's hitting in that path. Another one to look for me is just her speech. If she's getting more stammery with her speech, if she's struggling more and more to express herself, then that's a really big warning sign. And you see this more in things like the soft plays. If we're out at a soft play, she'll be running around like a maniac, but her speech will get more and more staccated, and she'll start getting more aggressive in her tone with other people. And I keep a really strong ear out for that to make sure that she's maintaining her decorum, if you like. And if I can see that she's struggling with that, that's when I will act. A different one that I've experienced recently was actually we had fireworks night the other night, and we actually went to see the fireworks, and I was very aware this could be a dangerous situation. Lots of lights, banging noise, crowds. It would be something that's really going to trigger my daughter, and I was keeping a close eye. What was interesting is her reaction was different. She actually identified, I'm not coping well with this now, Dad, can you? And we went and sat in the car for a while, put some music on gently, and just to drown out the worst of the bangs and something more soothing. And she felt safe in the contained space of the car. Made a big difference. My wife and my son were able to enjoy the rest of the fireworks. Well, I had my daughter in the car and we just had some daddy-daughter time, and it was a really good thing, but she identified it herself. But I was keeping my eyes. So teaching her to express that and tell me when she's struggling has been a really big thing. And it's starting to pay off. It's one of those things that's only been very recent, but I've really noticed it. Part of all this leads on to this. It's knowing the environment I'm going into. And it's very difficult sometimes. You can't prepare for every different environment you're going to. There's going to be surprises, there's going to be things, but as much as I can, I know where we're going. If we're going shopping, I know to respond a certain way and to keep an eye out for certain triggers. If she wants something, if she's getting too agitated, she wants this, you know, if we're too long. So having time limits on when we go shopping and things like that, so that she doesn't get pushed beyond her limits, are really important. We've started to learn and know and identify how long we've got and know when to push it. And you know what? It's time to head home now. Even if we haven't completed a shop, it's much better to have half a shop done and the things we need urgently, and then, you know, I can go later on in the evening or whatever it takes to do that separately. It's a really important thing. You know, if we're taking her clothes shopping, we know there's going to be issues there as well. She's very sensitive with clothing. Shoes are a nightmare. In fact, the biggest public meltdown we ever had was over shoes. And, you know, what she felt she wanted and needed, what were comfortable for her. In those situations now, we take a sensory toolkit with us. She does this herself, funnily enough. It's something she's learned to adapt herself. She knows what she's going to need going out. She's got a bag that she always carries with her, which has everything she could possibly need. She's got the toilet paper she likes in the bag. So she doesn't have to deal with horrible toilet paper in a public toilet or anything like that. She's got her toilet paper. She takes her poppets. She's got like a bunch of them that she puts a sensory toy, something that she likes to help stim in a socially acceptable manner, if you like. She keeps them in her bag as well. She keeps a drink in there. She keeps food snacks in there. Everything that she feels that she may need over the next period of time, she keeps in that bag. A tablet goes in there, and that's a really big thing as well. And I've spoken about, you know, the fact that tablet time and device time can be actually a really healthy thing for many autistic people in a different way than it can be for a neurotypical like myself. It's a different world that they can control, and so they use the you know, the tablet is a world that they can understand, and it can be something she hyper focuses on, and it shuts out mentally all that's going on around her. And again, things like, you know, ear defenders, or what I found even better are the noise cancelling headphones, because it's actually software. And with the noise cancelling headphones on, she can wear them, and the software itself removes the sound around, so it actually keeps things calmer for her. Identifying those sensory danger zones that are out there has really, really, really helped us. And it helps us maintain where she's at and help her with understanding what she needs at any particular given time. If we can reduce sensory overload, we're going to reduce the risk of a meltdown. Another important one is scheduling breaks. This is for longer term sort of things that we go to. If we go to a soft play, I make sure that we take time to go outside and go for a walk, remove ourselves from the chaos of the environment of soft play. She loves soft play. Not so much now, she's getting a bit older, but she, you know, when we were at soft plays and she loved going, she needed that. She needed that time to run around and be herself and let all that energy out. But it would get to a point where you could see a meltdown was coming. I've learned to schedule breaks. I look for the warning signs and it's, okay, let's go outside, let's take a walk, let's just get out of this environment for a bit, calm it down, and then we can go back in for another period of time if she wants. And it's scheduling those breaks can make a real difference in her being able to maintain the anxieties that she's got within. A big one for us was learning to identify the causes of meltdowns. Now, this is something that really takes place over a longer period of time. A great way to do it is I use the notes app on my diary on my phone, tracking the date, tracking the time, tracking what triggers I could see, what the behaviours were, and how we came down afterwards. Keeping a note of those things, and you can start to see patterns developing. A really interesting one is obviously holiday season. So we're coming up to Christmas at the moment. And I've learned that Christmas is really overwhelming for my daughter. She loves it. She loves Christmas. She loves the presents. She loves the decorations. She loves the feel of Christmas. But she struggles to maintain it. So, you know, that internal cup we have, I talk about a lot, of contains our emotion. It can be filled with positive and negative emotions. If you're excited, that's still going to fill that cup up. That means when something triggers, and there's only that little bit of space left at the top of the cup, it's all going to come flowing over, whether that was positive or negative emotional energy that's stored up in there, it's going to come out in one way or another. Christmas is full of lights. It's full of all the music that plays consistently. There's excitement about presents. You just, every ad's got Santa or something, and, people being, celebrating Christmas in one way or another. You get the lights that go on in town. You get the flashing lights. You get the Christmas music playing in every damn shop. The same songs, and they're repetitive, and it's going over and over, and it all builds up, and it's incrementally. We've learned to adjust Christmas to really try and suit my daughter. We try and avoid going out shopping. We shop online. We're in an era now where you can just hit Amazon and get everything delivered. We don't have to brave the shops to do all that kind of stuff. We can get supermarket deliveries for Christmas food, all that kind of stuff. We can work it so that it gets to us without needing to expose her to all of that. That really is what it comes down to. And we try and minimize the excitement as much as we can. We want the excitement to be there. We want her to enjoy it, but enjoy it at a level that means that she's not going to get to a point where she can't cope anymore. It's kinder to her that we try and draw it back. We will have Christmas decorations. We put a Christmas tree up. We do things, but everything's manageable. We can turn the lights off at any point. If she's feeling too much, we can turn the Christmas tree lights off. In fact, we only put them on if it's requested, and we'll turn them off fairly quickly. We keep the decorations to a minimum because for her, it's an environment that suddenly home is different. There's all these different things up and all these things going on. And it's like, well, it makes home a different place. Her safe place is suddenly compromised in a way. So keeping an eye on all that kind of stuff has just been huge. And it makes a big difference that we can come down and we open our presents and we try and keep everything sort of calm on the day. We don't overdo the excitement, and it's a compromise. We'd love to have the Christmas where everything's, party poppers and balloons and everything else and Christmas trees flashing. It's not fair on my daughter. So that's how we work around that. A huge one for us was preparing for routine changes. Now this has just come into play this week for us. We're getting a new kitchen put in, and it's a big deal for my daughter. Suddenly there's a real shift in routine. She's not going to use the kitchen for the next week or so until the new one's put in. And so she's really struggling with it. Suddenly there's a big change in routine, and we've had to, we've had time that we can prepare her. This is coming, this is coming. This is what's going to be happening. And we've been able to kind of lay in a routine that this is how the routine's going to be as we move forward for this next couple of weeks. It's still a huge challenge, and she was very upset this morning. It's all sitting there and overwhelming her at the moment. But it's, it's something that we've been able to prepare her, and we've minimized the risks. So she's still very emotional, but we haven't had that overwhelming meltdown yet. It may come, but at the moment we haven't hit that. And that's, a victory in itself. We've managed to help her to control those anxieties and reduce the anxiety within her that she hasn't got to that stage. And that's what we're going to keep trying to do. So it's that reassurance that comes with that even though it's a shift in routine, we've been able to prepare for it. It won't always work. Routines are so essential for so many people who are autistic, and knowing that those things are coming is just a way to prepare for it, but it won't always eliminate what's going to go on. None of these are hard, fast, set things that are going to avoid a meltdown every time. You are going to experience them regardless. This is about minimizing them and keeping them potentially at a lower level, but hopefully not reaching them. But it's a hopefully, and that's the key. And really that comes back to monitoring anxiety, and this is so important. I keep a really close eye, and again it comes back to these identifying triggers or warning signs by looking for things like stimming, for ways that her speech patterns are and stuff like that. I can see when my daughter's heading up in anxiety. It really ties back in with that, but knowing where she's at. And we've hit puberty and adolescence now, so we're having the time of the month issue as well. So I keep a tracker on my phone now. It's really quite strange, but your period is coming, pops up on my phone. But it's really helping us to know, okay, we're heading for these, and we're able to prepare as well. Having a period tracker for an adolescent has been a godsend, and these things that until the last few years we probably didn't have. Technology's moved, and it's adapting these new things that we can to help us maintain things for my daughter. So having that period tracker has really helped, and it's just me helping to monitor anxiety. I know when she's going to be more emotional and more anxious, and so I can prepare for it, and we can make things smoother at home. We bought a period kit for her, and it's just like a little box that she's got, and it's got some treats in there, you know, sugar-free. We always do sugar-free for my daughter. But, you know, little treats in there that she can sort of dip into. But it's got everything she needs there. And again, it's preparing her. It comes back to this sort of being prepared and helping her with that routine change. She's got something there that she can, you know, rely on. It's almost part of her sensory toolkit now. When you head into meltdown, how we handle the meltdowns as they occur is really important. You're always going to have the meltdowns. They're always going to occur at some stage. It's just, it's part and parcel to what goes with being an autistic person. These things will hit. How we can deal with them as parents and carers is huge. Number one thing is be empathetic. Understand and reach out and let them know they're safe with you. Show them that they are loved and they are cared for, that they are safe with you, regardless of where you are. And this is a tricky one because it's very hard to do when you've got a stalking audience watching what's going on, judging and muttering under their breath. It happens, you know, and there's nothing we can do about it. It's so hard to do, but just blocking that out makes such a difference. Focus on your child. Focus on what's going on for them and helping them. Empathy, make them feel safe and loved. And then when they're ready, you can move them out of that environment with the audience, get to the car or get to a safe place, somewhere they feel safe, and you can move on through it. But being able to empathize and show that you understand and you're not punishing them. And this is a big thing. Avoid punishments with meltdowns. It can be very tempting. It's very difficult sometimes to tell between a tantrum and a meltdown. Meltdowns are something which are completely uncontrollable, and they're not doing it because they're trying to attain something. It's not manipulative in any way. It's just an outpouring of anxiety that's exploded. So punishing is such a negative thing because it's just going to make things more anxious, to be honest. It's only going to play into making something last longer. It can be counterintuitive, you know, then we understand there need to be consequences at times, but it's something that they can't control, and it's just going to make everything worse. Be empathetic, show them they're safe, show them that they're loved, and that there's no punishment. You're not going to have to pay for this down the track. This is, you know, understanding, and this is where we're at. Avoid punishing meltdowns. It's a huge thing, and it's really, really important. If you can do it, try and have a calming routine. So something that you know helps them calm down. Now, for my daughter, it can be really it's tablet. She can go and get on and play Roblox or Minecraft or one of her fashion games or something like that. Something that helps her shut the world out around her. That really helps us. So for us, that's what we go to. We've tried things like sensory tents in the past. For my daughter, they don't work, but I know for a lot of people they do. Safe space in a bedroom, which is just a tent with maybe some calming lights, some textures in there, something that's sensory that they can feel is safe. They can shut out the world around them. It's going to be different for every kid. It's going to be different for every person. But identifying what's right for your child, for your cared for person, is going to be so important. Knowing that you've got those things in place. So having a calming routine can really help. And it's difficult when you're out and about if you're in public, but again, things like just carrying a tablet, carrying a sensory toolkit with you. If you've got some poppets or sensory toys, if you do a Pritchard, Blue Tack, any of those sort of things, they're just so key. And they can really help take it from here back down to here, which is where it's manageable. And then you can start moving further into, you know, bringing things down to a level where everything's manageable. A big one for us, and it's something that I have to do constantly, is identifying risks. I've spoken before about the fact that when my daughter hits meltdown, she can be quite aggressive and violent. Knowing the safety risks around for herself and for others is really important. Moving into a safe space if you can is so key. So moving somewhere where there aren't so many people around, where she can't pick up things that she can throw, that she can't attack anyone or anything like that. If I have to step in physically and intervene, I've been trained to do so. I hate doing it, but sometimes it's necessary in order to keep her and everybody else safe, because the consequences would be beyond what the discomfort is of that moment. And, you know, funnily enough, she knows that she kind of feels safe in when I've got her in a restraint. There's a point at which she's like, okay. And it's like a hug. The way the restraint I've been taught, it's like it's like a hug. So I've just got my arms around her. It's safe for her. but there's also, I can translate it as a loving thing, and she picks up on that. A big one, and this is an interesting one, is avoid logic. There's a temptation, and I'm guilty of it myself. There's a temptation to be logical and reasoning. Okay, is this helping anyone? What are you doing? What's going to happen next? You know if this, and they're natural things, because for me, that's how I would deal with the situation. But we've spoken before about the Star Trek analogy with Spock and Kirk and the lizard. There'll be links to that in the description. Please do check it out. But basically, the nub of it is when someone's in a meltdown, Spock's gone for a walk. Logic is gone. They don't have that ability to process logic. All you've got is your emotional side of your brain and your fight, flight, or freeze. And they're the only two communicating, and there's no way you're going to bring logic in. Trying to be logical is more than likely only going to agitate and exacerbate the situation. The best thing you can do is come back to that empathetic, care, love, calm, and us remaining calm in the situation. It's very difficult, but rather than flying off the handle or escalating your own patterns, like stop, your panic and all that kind of stuff, and they're natural things that are going to happen. Being able to monitor that, try and bring it back down so that we're speaking calmly and empathetically, is going to make them feel safer and more able to deal with what's going on. As I say, meltdowns are going to happen. Doesn't matter what tools you have and what life hacks you have, they are still going to happen. This has been about looking for ways that we manage to help alleviate that tension and stress for my daughter, and hopefully avoid getting into the situation where we do hit meltdown. When we've hit meltdown, it's about bringing in those practices, the empathy and love, and making sure that she understands she's safe with us. And that can really, really help. I have to decompress after a meltdown. If my daughters have one, and I've had to step in anyway, I find it really hard. And I have to be able to take that time, but I put her first. And I always make sure I spend some time with her afterwards, just talking. Sometimes when logic's returned, if you like, that's what I wait for. And then we can talk about what could we have done differently? How could we have, addressed that so that you don't feel that way again? And she's come up with a lot of stuff in time, methods that she has that she can decompress and calm herself before it gets to. And she's learning to communicate that with us. As I say, fireworks, she actually came to me and said, I'm not coping with this, I need to go to the car. And that's what we did. That's it for this episode. I'd love to hear your tips and tricks. If you've got anything that you've been able to do, a life hack that you've got for dealing with a meltdown with your child, I'd love to hear about it. Please do put it in the comments. Likewise, as an autistic person, if you're an autistic person who has to deal with meltdowns themselves, what are some self-regulatory things that you've been able to do? How do you cope with it? How do you deal with it in the situation? I'd love to hear your feedback. It's all so important. Please do hit like, hit subscribe, and ring the bell so that you know when we've got new content coming up. I will see you again in the next episode, but in the meantime, stay safe.